Hey, this is Wabi-sabi Podcast, and I am your host, Adam Yasmin. I want to say welcome to any first-time listeners, as well as welcome back to my subscribers. This is the first episode of 2020, and simultaneously the first episode of the second season of the show, which is really cool. I want to give a really quick shout out to my 4 Patreon supporters who helped me sustain this show. So the 4 of you, I cherish you, and you know who you are. And I'm super excited to introduce you to today's guest, who is a prolific ceramicist and potter named Petr Novák, who's based in Czech Republic. I was introduced to his work through the tea community and lineage that we are both part of, called Global Tea Hut. We're actually based in Taiwan, but I've spent I think the past year privileged enough to own one of Petr's teapots that I've used in my tea practice, especially when I conduct my tea services here in LA. Definitely use his pot for larger groups. And so this is our very first conversation. And without further ado, here's Petr Novák. And again, thank you for the inspiration and the spontaneity to meet each other in this conversation.
My pleasure. I'm happy to be here with you and talk.
So you're based in Czech Republic.
Yes, kind of middle of the Europe, more or less. So, and middle of the Czech Republic. So the studio is in a really small village, just 100 people living here. Now I'm living in close town, not so far. So driving here every day or every second day, depends on the schedule at the Czech Republic.
So you live in a village of, you said 100 people.
The studio is here. We built a studio with my ex-partner, and but I'm not living here anymore. So it's like half house, half home, and I'm living now in an apartment in the town. But right. The village is very small. Yeah.
Wow. And I guess maybe for someone like myself who's far enough away I haven't actually been to Czech Republic yet. I've been to Austria. I've been to Germany. I may have passed through like Hungary. Is like how far away are you from like Prague and?
I always make this joke that there is nothing far away in Czech because we are rather smaller country.
Right.
But well, there's always discussion what is small country. But of course, if you talk with someone from States, then it's small country. In Europe, we are like middle country. We have 10 million people, which is like Sweden, but Sweden is 10 times bigger, maybe. Yeah. So we are. How to describe it? It's kind of because we are next to the Germany, so which is very strong and always was strong, and we used to be part of the Austrian monarchy before, but the history of Czechia or Czech Republic is quite long. There were kingdoms, and so there is quite strong heritage. But so there's the borders are kind of sometimes I feel it's blurry, so it's like whole Europe, or you have just like small small countryside, and you are just living next to your town. But back to your question, from the Prague, it's 1.5 by car, and it's almost the same distance as from Vienna, or for example, or in 2 hours drive, I can visit 5 different countries, more or less. So
that's incredible.
That's something and with different languages and different history and everything. So now it's a little bit more blurry again because of the European Union, but there are still these borders of different cultures and cultures in the sense of the language and the literature and everything is different in
Wow, I just can't imagine, for me, having grown up here in Los Angeles, even though, again, maybe it's a good, actually, let me reframe what I was going to say. I was going to say I can't imagine driving with no more than 2 hours and having 5 different countries with different borders very accessible to you. And yet the way I can reframe that statement is that I have, we here in LA, we have perhaps hundreds of cultures that are just woven into the fabric of the city. So you don't have to go that far when you're in LA.
Yeah, sure. It's like different realm in some sense.
It's and a different way of accessing that kind of immersion into another culture. So that's interesting. I wasn't thinking about going into any kind of a political topic, but I'm curious if you are really, I mean, since you say that you're like really in the middle of the EU, yes, in terms of geography, but also, I'm curious, being from Czech Republic, how are you viewing the EU right now with what's going on politically?
Okay. Not that I would be really deeply into that. Just general feeling is I think that this project is really good thing. And of course, there's a lot of troubles and everything could be better always. But generally, not have, keeping some cultural differences is cool and it's good to have because it's more colorful and richer. So not making everything even, but having something what connect us and on the same continent in this globalization, globalized world now. Sorry, I have something in the throat.
It's okay.
I think it's basically that's my feeling is there's a good thing. It's very simple, a simple sentence probably. There's everything in that. So I'm supporting that. There's a lot of discussion now with the Brexit and other things around. And immigrants, so people are scared, but it goes to this very playing on the fear and rather using what it offers us and what kind of that's some as usually with you can see it as a threat or as an offering as some challenge which can you can learn something new how to work with given facts. And so I think it's a bit pity that it could be even more and faster. And so I generally appreciate that we are part of the EU and everything what it offers, that we can travel freely and there's you can be connected to other people and not building walls and borders. So
Yeah. And because I remember hearing, with over the last several years with the Syrian population who had to escape and are continuing to escape Syria, with what's going on there. I remember hearing about some EU countries were more open arms and accepting and taking more of a responsibility to want to rehouse immigrants. And let's say I'd say maybe extreme examples would be like the Germany response versus like a Hungary response. It seemed like the government in Hungary was a bit more like, we don't want immigrants, and we're afraid of.
Yes, it's very that's one of the, like, on the other hand, it's interesting thing in the Europe also that there is plenty of countries, and like even in EU 28, let's say 27, and each of them have different approach, which is also good. It's like different people have different opinions and things, and they have to. There is some freedom, so we can solve it on our own, kind of, and find that balance. I believe we could like accept much more people, but find a way how to deal with that, with the troubles which come along with that. And again, the Austria, which is really from the place I'm now, it's less than an hour. I have borders with Austria, and they accepted, I don't know how many, 30,000 immigrants during this crisis, maybe more, during 1 year, and we accepted like 10 people, or I don't know, something really almost nothing from this region. We have a lot of immigrants also, but mostly from Ukraine and other countries, not from the Arabic countries or from Africa. So there is like big wave against immigrants here as well, and but we could, because I think that would make I believe that would make the Czech Republic more colorful, so on, which would be healthy. But people are afraid, and there are laws and politics. So.
And speaking of globalization, my experience of you, this is our first ever conversation, and I'm really grateful for it, just to say that out loud. But my experience of you is a direct result of globalization, kind of in its most poetic format. I, being someone who, I myself am an immigrant here in California. I'm Israeli by birth, but I was raised here from a very young age, and because of my experiences, but also my upbringing, I have a Russian ancestry and other Middle Eastern and North African countries in my ancestry, and that the experience of, or I'd say the history or the tradition of tea in all of its forms has always been in my life, to the point where, I met Colin of Living Tea. I then met Wuda. When Colin first started bringing him out to California, and then within no time, like hearing about, not just hearing about, but particularly seeing examples of your work, which really, to me, kind of I don't know many ceramicists, especially ceramicists who are like avid tea drinkers themselves, or who definitely make tea a part of their sort of daily practice, or whatever kind of spiritual practice that they may have. Every ceramicist is so what's the word here? Your work is very much you. That's what I gather from it. So without knowing you personally, but I have one of your pots. I have one of your side handle pots, and it's always a conversation piece. And every time I use it in a tasting or a tea ceremony, I just used it actually 2 days ago at a birthday party full of acupuncturists here in Los Angeles, and the ability to share with people, excuse me, like in a little story. This pot is made by this gentleman, Petr Novák, and he's based there, and he has this practice, and I don't even know how long you've been doing this work, but I almost feel like it's irrelevant because um, it is this amazing and very sort of, it's sort of the actualization of globalization, like, this sort of description, and um, the joy in which I experience, and using the pot that I have of yours is really like sort of the best case scenario of globalization.
um, First of all, of course, I'm honored that you are using my pots, and that it brings us joy, and we have this connection. That's great. I'm really, very often feeling that this is one of the reasons why I'm still doing it. Why there was not like thoughts about running out of this field. That's this connection with people, and when you do something for many years, then many people I know, they are exploring like new options in the career, or like trying to move out of that. Okay, I'm doing it for 5-10 years, so let's try something new. And for me, this feedback and actually practice of other people bring me so much like energy back, that I can continue doing it with joy and pleasure. So thank you for saying that. But yes, for globalization, one of the main, for me, benefits of that is that we can find our own tribe, our own people, without much like doing the compromises. Like you can find, we were discussing it on the New Year. We have friends from Sweden here, which we also met because of the tea. And there was like this, they have to travel a few thousand kilometers just to meet friends. And so on some level, there was like this pity why we don't have neighbors as a friends. But this way, we can like really be connected to ourselves also more, maybe because we can like choose, and or go to more subtle level with the friendship, or some connection and inspiration, and so it can give us some strength for our own personal growth. And so I think it's a good thing if somebody is like lean to stay in the community, you have the option, go out and find somebody else if that's not enough for you, for your own. And it can be business, but it can be also these personal connections and social circles, and or teachers, or like everything is much more accessible. And again, it can be holding us back because it's too much of the things. And you have
Sure.
so many options that you like jump from one to another, or it can be opportunity that you just can find your thing and do it deeply. So yeah, it's kind of maybe challenge, but I would like to use it, not be afraid of that. So I'm not sure if you wanna just continue where we stop, or you would like to do some like start again somehow. I'm okay with both.
I mean, given the fact that this show is called Wabi-sabi, and I was on my way to ask you a question about. I mean, yes, there are these beautiful and sort of successful examples of of your experiences of globalization, how you interact with it with other people, and I was on my way to ask you, like, what are you experiencing with the the other side to to globalization, if anything. I mean, or maybe there are some experiences or examples you may have with how you're experiencing, your work or your expression through ceramics, and how it moves around the world, or how it's received, with other people, or perhaps it relates to other things that you do in the world. I'm not sure I'm curious if there are other things that you do, if not for work.
Of course, as how to approach it, it's quite a wide question. There are, as I mentioned before, my approach generally to globalization or almost whatever topic, I'm at least trying my best to approach it as opportunity rather than something what should like hold me back and just talk about it as bad thing. Globalization is bad or good. I think it is what it is, and it depends how we approach to it. What is how we relate to that situation. And of course, I don't have to use internet if I don't wanna. There is
Sure.
no like nobody's pushing me, and there are some benefits of doing that. So even for my own like leisure and pleasure, or but it can be used for self-cultivation and for whatever goals we have in life. So I'm trying to find some healthy balance to all of that, because the work in ceramic is very down to earth. I cannot sell pieces which I don't make.
Of course. Of course.
I cannot do just promotion and be connected all the world and doing exhibition and travel. It'll be amazing, but somebody have to sit here and actually do the things and process the clay and think of design and think of all the technical details. And so there is like that's one of the things which I really like about the ceramic actually, is that it involves almost every part of the human skills that you have to, especially now as when we are as a studio potters, as a single artists, we are in that stage when most of the people as a potters approach to the studio work that they know everything. They are not so specialized as it was in the past, when there was a person who fired a kiln and there was a person who throw the pieces on the wheel, and there was a person who prepared the clay, and there was a person who sells the stuff. And like there was, so usually it was community of people working in the studio. Now in most of the cases we are just like single artists. So for me, it means have some organization skills and work with clay and prepare the wood for a wood firing and arrange the studio and clean the things. And at the same time, I prepare some exhibitions and write articles and have interviews with people and communicate in different language. And so it's like there's so many things which it offers, and also it's for some potters can be challenging because they have luck in some areas, so they are very great in work on the wheel, for example, and they make really beautiful pieces, but they don't have a way how to sell it, for example.
Sure.
Or and so I kind of appreciate, for me personally, I appreciate that it's so wide, so I'm not stuck just with one task.
Right.
So what I'm saying is that I'm not so drowning in the globalization, or like I'm not so catch with that, because the clay always bring me back to the wheel,
Of
and
course.
you have to sit and put your fingers to the mat and work with that for hours and hours and days, and then you can show something and share it with others.
So ceramics is your day to day. It's the only line of work that you have.
Yes.
Amazing.
Actually, for 20 years now.
20 years.
Well,
Wow.
or a bit more than 20, but yes. So it's my main profession in my whole life. I didn't do anything else in most of the cases. There were some things like around the ceramic that I built some kilns for for others, and or share some experiences in some teachings. But I never was like paid as a teacher, or many potters do other things. But I'm lucky enough to have an opportunity to work just like that, and also the lucky enough, or that I'm satisfied with that. It's okay for me to be like this.
Yeah.
This other thing.
Did you apprentice with anyone? Like, how did you start as a ceramicist? Did you just start with classes, or?
Yeah, there's, because I was explaining this or this storytelling, how it was, or how it beginning this few stories I'm saying, and usually most of them, not most of them, they are truth, but you can like approach it from different angles, and sometimes I'm wondering if it's how really it was if somebody else would be looking at that. But what is the reality? Because it's 20 years ago, and you are telling the story, so you start to like anyway. But I was just playing with clay in the studio of my former partner. She was potter already for some time, and I was young and more or less jobless. Like I didn't have any goals in the life. I was enjoying just freedom and doing like few things here and there, but there was not really some direction where to go. And I was playing with clay and somehow get stuck with it. Like really didn't. There was no vision. Okay, I have planned become a potter, so I will go and find the best teacher on the market and read books and do all the things which I always recommend to do when some students approach me. So I was more just growing from inside, that I get stuck with the clay and playing with it. And she gave me some help, of course, and there was a support of that space and time that I have that, and somehow stay with the clay for years. So I learned basic skills like how to work with the clay and some technical details about what she could teach me back then, and from her. And then later on I start to read books and visit other potters and see, and more experimenting and growing. And later on, as I start to learn English, I discovered that because there was not many books in Czech language on ceramic, and so it was like a closed jar. And with that, I didn't know that the field is actually so big and huge and deep. And at the same time, it's like 15 years ago, maybe, when I start to learn English, and I start to learn English because of the ceramic. Actually, I discovered that there's so much of the things, and I have to do that if I want to grow somehow. And at the same time, I met Mirka, which she was, and we started to live together and work together. She studied ceramic in Chicago. She was there living for 5 years and learned a lot of things from the ceramic field, like technical things which I didn't know at all. Even after working in clay already for 5 years, it was like totally new. So we built it kilns and start like different methods of firings and different approach to glazes and clays and all the technical stuff which ceramic offers. But from the beginning, even with this like basic knowledge, I was with the focus on the T-ware most of the time. Because there are a lot of tea rooms in Czech Republic even back then, and so I was lucky to have supporters from local tea rooms, and so they were using my beginner spots, and over time I kind of as a sponge used the knowledge which was around me and just transform it in my own way somehow. And Yeah, of course, it would be much faster if I would have good teachers and a good school, which would be focused, and if my approach would be more goal-driven, that would be probably much faster to get where I am now, but with the knowledge. But yeah, it was my way.
Yeah, but there's something beautiful about, yeah, what is it called? There's a term called autodidact, which is a sort of like self-learning or self-motivated, kind of intuitive type of personality that whatever, a person is approaching. I can say for myself, I've been a musician for many, many years, and I never really wanted to learn in a classical sense. It was always just I wanted to experience it myself, and if I and I spent time, like as a teenager, listening to my favorite music and then playing along with that music, like with an album or with a song, and that's how I learned technique and fingering and timing and different strumming methods, and I learned how to play music because I played with the music that always inspired me. So in a way, when I hear this, what you're saying in a similar sense, like yes, there was
Yeah.
the connection and the sort of the bridge of learning it through your partner, and having the partnership or maybe the space that you guys were in together be, that kind of a point of origin in which you really started to get interested in it and started to try different things. And then for me, it's amazing to hear that you then realized you had to learn, excuse me, learn a new language so that you can read more about about techniques or about history or about how different cultures are doing things, and that it's a very organic and imperfect in this, like if someone were to look from outside,
Yeah,
you know
it's definitely the word organic is probably good. I
yeah
was looking for something like that,
yeah
how to describe it, and also intuitive. And but um, it is what it is. I'm just like that's how I get here. And of course, what like good features about my approach to that was that I was very persistent and enthusiastic for years. So and that get me where I am now. Uh, if people don't have that, they will give up even with good school, and or good education. So you have to be really in love with that field and do it because it's bring you some joy and so you can overcome some troubles and all that hard work is not hard work actually because you enjoy it.
exactly
Yeah, I'm just like from like now I'm trying to approach when I'm studying something or I'm enthusiastic, I'm trying to approach it more skillfully and be more so it's different phase of their life, and if I'm trying to grow, so also change these patterns of yeah. But that's how I get there, and I'm not saying it was bad. Just usually when I'm recommending someone, when people are starting, so they're asking how to get here, how to learn ceramic. There is so many options now. Everything is open. You can find any recipe for any glaze on the internet, and now you have to do the work. You have to go to the studio and actually do it. But there is no like hidden secrets. It's just a secret is in doing that, trying to understand what it means. Or this is like with the music. You can find good teachers and the best if everything is available. You just have to do it and have some juju inside you, which will create something new or something special. So,
well, this is what's interesting about, I mean, I'm hearing you saying this, and for me it makes me immediately think about the strange sort of contrast that we today experience with the contrast between consumption and then like work slash immersion slash just doing something that isn't. And when you're doing something, whether it's be sitting on a wheel and making a pot or cooking a meal or changing a diaper or something, like you're not in a consumption mode. You're not sitting on your phone or a tablet or something, just sort of and I'm saying this in the most like grotesque, in the most just kind of grotesque way. Consumption, like you're just scrolling or reading or seeing photos or something, because that's become one way in which people either are choosing to feel their emotions or suppress their emotions or seek inspiration or seek a connection or forge a connection. It's kind of all these things simultaneously at once. And with something like ceramic, I've taken 2 class series this past year for the very first time, just wheel throwing. And for me, the joy of sitting for those hours and making mistakes and feeling my fingers and my muscles and my shoulders and my neck or whatever for almost like for the first time, because you're sitting in these sort of a few positions and feeling, to sound kind of cliche for a moment, feeling how imperfect it is. Just like in feeling how the way your body has to contort to make something that you find either beautiful or has utility. If it's a bowl, if it's a plate or it's a cup or something, I think it's so fascinating. And at this point, the reason why I'm not doing it right now is just, it's more of just like a cost prohibitive thing to do a class series in a local studio. First of all, there has to be space in the studio, and then you have to have the money to do it, and so on and so forth. Or I can maybe find a wheel and just put it in my backyard and, do it on my own time, and maybe just pay for the usage of a kiln, which I'm also open to doing. But just to say that I've made now, I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 items, mostly bowls and mugs, and I can see how I would love to, cultivate a lot more of that for myself and to figure out how to do it, in this, crazy jungle of Los Angeles and that kind of thing. And
yeah, that's one of the reasons why ceramic is so well spread, let's say. And you can find a class in even small towns, probably, and then high schools and everywhere, is because it's in some way, like the basic is easy, like just to start and play is satisfying enough, and it brings you joy, and you learn about yourself. It doesn't have to be about a goal of reaching something, make some big beautiful sculpture or something. It's just pressing your fingers to the clay. There is something magical in it, and it's like healing because you're touching something essential.
yes,
And it's simple, and it can go from here to very high gallery sculpture objects, or very refined Chinese porcelain, or like, it's so wide and deep and so basic on the same time, so accessible, this joy. So yeah, that's one of the kind of unique things about the ceramic, actually. I think it's maybe similar to the music, and in some way that also everybody can do some sounds, and it can be interesting to create that. But with the clay, because it's connected to the touch, it's a bit different, but maybe similar. Mhm.
I'm curious, given the breadth of time you've spent in the ceramics world, uh, at what point did you get introduced to or come across, the notions of like gung fu or chadao, or like maybe the first time you had pu'er, was it in
Mhm.
Czech Republic or were you traveling somewhere? Or...
So the story goes, my personal story goes that I was visiting tea room before I started ceramic, and there was a small community in, yes, small town, but it was nice tea room, and they have quite. Um, I know the owners. They were like older and giving some kind of alternative to all my other friends who were just visiting pubs and parties. I start to look for something else and find this community which lean to more like cultural or meditative and more different kind of let's say spending time in different ways
Yeah.
and offering like some alternative to what other my people of my age were doing at the time when I was, I don't know, 19, 20. So I started to go to the tea room first, like 2, 3 years before I touched the clay. So I was already drinking sencha and pu'er and other things at the time, not having much money. So it was just like something special, but I was a regular visitor of that place and friends with the owners. And so when I touched the clay, I was like, okay, I'm going to make a teapot, of course, like the first thing, not knowing anything about a ceramic. Uh, and I'm still learning how to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that was the starting point. Like, okay, why to lean to the teaware and tea communities, because I already have friends there, so I can show them. Okay, make a few cups or bowls and show them and give them, and so it's, and then you have feedback and continue new firing and new balls. But because of it's like many years, and I'm that persistent person who like gets stuck with that for all those years without any breakage. I met like a lot of tea people, travel to Asia, meet also as you, I meet Hude and start to be very connected to global tea hut community. I don't know, from 6, 7 years ago maybe. So in these 20 years, there's like many different periods, and it's also usually influenced my work back, so I was creating some pieces which I consider to be like teaware, and then you see people using that in some way, and some of that it was more closer to my how I see it. So I get inspired and move to that direction, and slowly like have some interaction always with the people who are using that. So back and forth, and like every firing is a bit moved by the usage. Um, so now it's, and how to say it, like because there even teaware, like ceramics is a really huge field, and even teaware, when I focus on teaware, there's like so many things you can do and approach it in so many different ways. Very often when you say tea-ball or teaware in a potter's community, they mean chavan, like for a matcha.
Yeah.
That's the tea-ball. And I almost don't do them or I do them because I like them as a sculpture, and I have some friends who drink matcha, but I personally don't, or very little. So also I'm doing them very little. And there are pieces of teaware which I don't do because I don't use them at all. And does kind of make sense for me to have on the table some pieces of teaware which I don't use. So why I would kind of produce them? I don't know how. I don't see the connection. There is not this. I could do it, of course, from technical point of view, and I would find a way. So I usually do more and more of the things which I'm using and trying to make them to my own how I feel them they should look like, and how I feel they would be the better version of the last firings to like move them slowly forward.
That sounds that's I mean that sounds so uh, that sounds it's when I'm trying to say 14 things at the same time. It's amazing to and affirming to hear like you would be we pretty much only make and sell the tools that you yourself would use. If you don't find yourself really big on matcha and using chawans, you're not going to be making them, or at least it's not your impulse is not to make them. Maybe I'm sure maybe people request them from you, and you may or may not oblige them. But that's yeah, it's amazing and lovely to hear that is a reality that you can create for yourself in terms of how you work and the purpose with which you imbue every piece that you make, because you yourself would be using them on a daily basis. So are you saying that all those years ago was you first tried pu'er, like maybe 20 years ago, or like when was really the first time?
Um, yes, I would say so. I remember the first brick. It was a brick, something quite simple. I remember the packaging, and also company. I brought it from, and it was a story of Tibetan monastery smell, and
Yeah.
and it's like some nice story. I didn't know about anything about the tea, just like the story, and so I brought it, and it hit me like it. But there was not internet was really not yet here, or maybe not anywhere.
Yeah.
20 years ago. And so like shopping from China was just some people who travel there and bring something, and there was one company who brought things from China back then, and so we brought things from them. So there was just few options, not so wide as now, and
Yeah.
and we were very happy with what we had, and that was really nice. I'm not sure what I would say about the tea now. Maybe it was a really good one. Maybe because the pu'er was very cheap stuff back then. Even good. So, but yeah, it's like 20 years, and I'm kind of drinking it since. And but yeah, there was like wild. You know how also this tea realm is so wide and deep. There is like so many ways how to approach it, and so many different drawers and schools, and like it's really vast as the ceramic field, maybe the same kind of. And so over the years, I tried to approach it from this side and that side, and there was years when I was more geeky, like buying tons of samples and writing articles about different tastes and flavors, and searching for the best I don't know, first flash Darjeeling of the year, and doing different testings of. And then so also then doing different testing of materials for the teas, for example, and different shapes of pots, and then I start to be more in the Japanese teas, and also drinking more matcha, and leaning to more to that direction, trying tea ceremony from the Chanu, like a Japanese tea ceremony from Urasenke, and then again like going more to the Chinese kung fu or Taiwanese style oolongs, and more fragrance, and this kind of colorful world of Taiwanese oolongs, and yeah. So it's like everything is kind of already in me somehow, and so I can also change and approach it from different angles. But my main core now is the way which is Wu-De teachings, and this old school Chinese approach to tea, which I like, and it gives me more approaching tea as a medicine, and going like to the meditative and deeper way, and it doesn't take out of me this layer of enjoying us in the geeky way, or I can really enjoy all the flavors and tastes, and I really love it. That's not only that. And the same probably I would say with the teaware, as you mentioned that I wouldn't do the chavans. Yeah, I do chavans, but it's not because I know that for people it's ceremonial piece, and so and also for potters it's very often a sculpture, and I'm trying to approach them as a ceremonial piece. Or again, like how to use it in so people who will buy my chavan will feel connection to the tea as a medicine, and to this tradition of tea as a vehicle to some self cultivation and having connection to yourself. And so but as I'm not drinking matcha, it's not like my own thing, so it is not my own portfolio of teaware, which most potters on the west do. When you say tea bowl, it's matcha bowl, and very often more like sculpture object,
Yeah.
a piece of art, which is nothing bad about that. I like it. It's just not my way.
Yeah. Yeah. Here in Los Angeles, and in what is it? It's called. There's a museum called LACMA, Los Angeles County Museum of Art.
Mm-hmm.
They have a Japanese pavilion, a special pavilion that houses, contemporary and ancient Japanese works. And there was one. There was a tea bowl. It was a chawan exhibit. Where I got to see basically the last maybe 500 years of chawans from the same family, the same lineage of potters.
The raku?
A lot of raku, and it was phenomenal, and very much, as you say, like it was very much oriented around, it's just sculpture. It may not have I'm sure that there's a sense in which it's meant to be used. It's meant to have the utility for tea and shanoyu, but it seems as though all those bowls on display were just for sculpture purpose. And they were absolutely gorgeous to look at, and you can appreciate when you look at it. Its beauty and the tradition and the lineage, like how many generations of potters, to go back 500 years to, like your ancestors making, that seems so poetic to me, because me being someone who came from a different culture, it seems like something that's so far away, and I don't think I can ever have a understanding. I can't have that understanding of maybe being part of a lineage of artisans or something like that. I wonder. I have two questions, and one of them is maybe more of a personal nature, and we don't have to go into it if you're not feeling like speaking about it. But I wonder if you can maybe say a few words about. You were talking about your ex-partner, and I'm curious. I'm assuming that this is the partner that you also started your ceramic journey with. What can you say about when relationships either end or change to a new form, and do you still draw inspiration from that relationship, or is it just something that kind of goes away like some things do, like some things kind of die?
Okay. I'm wondering, I'm not afraid of that question, just wondering how to approach it. First of all, I was in two long-term relationships, and both with potters. And
Okay.
as we always do, we learn a lot in the relationship about And because it was with the portraits, it was also a lot from them from the ceramic point of view, like from this like professional career. I'm so grateful for those women, because each of them, they taught me a lot on the ceramic field. And what is kind of new, that in the sense that now I'm working on my own, which I always was. Like with both of them, we had separate kind of line of work. And Mirka is in also creating a lot of things from the T-ware, so she's well known, and she creates like really beautiful pieces in T-ware field. And but we were always kind of separated in what we are doing. But you still, or we were still kind of deciding. Everything was shared in the sense, okay, what clay we are going to buy, and when we'll be firing, and like all the small things are joint decisions and kind of cooperation. And so what changed now is that everything is on me, and so I have to redefine what is really me, and kind of clear it, and stand behind the things I'm doing. And you don't have anything to blame, and you don't have any support. On the other hand, this kind of, it's on me, and I enjoy it. It's sometimes because it was new situation. Also in this area was new, so there was moments of surprise for me, like how much it was actually connected. And so I'm still kind of learning to walk this path alone. And I think it's healthy. It's good to be alone there. I will always enjoy to be in this kind of company and cooperation and joint effort. But I also need it this time. Now I'm working on my own things, and it's alone, and it's my hours, and like everything is driven by my own kind of decisions and goals. And so that's the big change to the approach to work. And also this change inspired me to redefine what I'm standing behind, and where I would like to, because as we mentioned at the beginning, that my path was very much just intuition driven and organic. So it grew out, what situation life was bringing, then I was accepting, and somehow growing from that somewhere like organic. Just there was this passion for tea and passion for tea-ware, and it bring me here. And now I'm giving to different, using different approach. I'm trying to, because I learned so much already, and I already experienced so much in tea and ceramic as well, that now I would like to shape it and give it back to world in some way. I'm standing behind. I would like to share my approach to tea-ware and define it in a more conscious way, and communicate it more, like put it out there. So I'm defining for myself what it means. So it's totally like new feel for me, and already for some time. So it's exciting. Also, it's curious where that will leads me, but it's new situation. So yeah, maybe ask this question again, like in 2 years. We'll see.
Yeah.
Because I have like a lot of kind of goals and things which I would like to do, like new things. Yeah. So
I'm also curious. Thank you for touching on that subject, because I feel like when people talk about, at least when I talk maybe with some friends or other guests or even strangers in the world about relationships or love and intimacy and creativity and the sort of the ways in which all those things kind of combined. For some people, it's it's an open book, and some for others it's not. I'm also curious, like, given your given the time spent thus far in this world, where else do you draw inspiration from today?
Like, it's really the core is tea and tea practice, and from that, because I was always in again in some organic way driven to different practices of self-cultivation, to Buddhism. So I feel myself as a Buddhist and practicing different things like over the years. So this like also connection to whole Asian culture, like a Chinese and Taiwanese, Japanese approach. And I visited Korea 3 times, so there was like a period in my path when I was also inspired by the Korean history. And so again, it's tea and it's ceramic approach, but it's also how the aesthetic and the different approach to life which Asian cultures offers. Or so this interaction between being kind of also, as you are mentioning, uprooted from our own cultures, because there was so many breakages in my own lineage of there's not really tradition of the ceramic or even like artists in my family, so I don't have any lineage or background from family roots. And there is so many inspiration in the East, and so this combination creates something totally new, and I have to face it and deal with that. So we look with very romantic eyes on the potters in the who lives for, as you said, in the Raku family for 500 years in this lineage. But we will be never there, you know. So we are where we are, and we can again use it as a excuse why we are not so good, or what we cannot do, or we can. For myself, I'm trying to see some what it offers, and there are lineages which we can join. Like even when you drink tea, you are suddenly part of the like something bigger a little bit, like people
Sure.
who process it in some way, and then to the trees and to the tea where you are using, which the technique I learned somewhere in Korea, for example, and that it's there, and you can access it actually and be part of that. So like if you talk about inspiration for creativity, for the creation itself, it mostly goes to the my approach to my own self-growth and spirituality, and it like inside path, and or when it's going outside, it's of course nature and travels, and very often travels to Asia when I find something like new approach or get some life-changing experiences. And that it's people, it's community who is all the people who are using that, like it's you know, it's people. It's that's the inspiration for the, because then you get like feedback, which first I remember when I was not even without internet, I was traveling with backpack filled of my pots and hitchhiking to city to trying to sell it, and then you unpack pieces in some tea room, and people start to comment on that and saying their like opinions and giving you advices, and for me as a creator, it was very often like I feel offended that, you know, I'm bringing some art and they are trying to do me advices, and but back then you sit in the studio and think about it twice and try it, and like so there is always even they say something which felt like a stupid idea at that moment, then I try it in the studio and trying to be open and work with that idea or something and create something totally new and move from there, or seeing, okay, it's really not way, and there's like but you discover something new and along the way.
It's
It's interaction with the people. It's like it's driving the work a lot.
That's a good point. I mean, I would call that like the feedback loop, of you make pieces, you go to the tea room, you immediately get feedback that's like beyond yourself from people who either have similar experience or have no experience, but they feel like they can contribute somehow, even if it's I don't know, judgment or criticism. But there is that interesting the short distance between creation and feedback from other people, which is fascinating. What's in your mug right now?
Mug is empty. I just finished, but it was Hong Cha from Yunnan, Dianhong. Yeah, it's quite late now, so I'm trying not to drink tea so late.
Yeah.
And I didn't have trouble with the sleeping, but now I maybe because I prefer not to drink teas in the evening so much. But
yeah,
I just finished my tea now.
Yeah. Well, there's so many more things I would love to talk about, and I feel like this is a good moment to give thanks and to pause for our next conversation.
Yeah, sure.
And I I really appreciate the spontaneity, the inspiration, and the opportunity to have spent this time with you, especially as you said that you're still in your studio, you're not back at home, I look forward to sharing this conversation with other folks and to come up with just to come across new experiences and new topics with which to discuss with you. Yeah. And maybe one day I'll make it out there and be able to just sit with you or sit in your studio.
Would be amazing. Of course, sure. Sharing the tea would be best in person and talk in person. Yeah, it was joy talking with you. I'm glad we made it, and glad you're doing that. It's very inspiring to listen to your podcast. And
thank you. Hey, thanks for listening. If you're interested in checking out Petr's work on Instagram, you could do so at PotsandTea. That's POTSANDTEA, which will also share some further web links, which are really long URLs, through that profile. And you can also see other examples of his work and learn about the tea community that we've met through, called Global Tea Hut. So that's globalteahut.org, GLOBALTEAHUT.org, as well as on Instagram at Global Tea Hut. And if you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe to the show. And if you have an extra moment to spare, to leave a review in iTunes or Apple Podcasts, or I think also on Spotify. I'm not actually sure, but anywhere you can leave a review helps with search results and appeases the algorithms. And lastly, if you haven't already done so, and if you're feeling generous in this new year and new decade, you can support the podcast directly at patreon.com/wabi-sabi podcast. There are several tiers of support that start as little as $1 a month. And I promise you that in 2020 and beyond, there will be more episodes per month. And I want you to hold me to that promise. So thanks again for listening.